Hey, it's Amy Scott Grant. They call me the spiritual ass kicker, and I'm here with a couple of tips for you on how to stay calm, safe, and protected when there's stuff going on around you. There's a lot of stuff happening at a regional level right now, right? I mean, really, half of the year is hurricane season. I grew up in New Orleans, so I know what that's like, and some seasons are bad, 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 storm after storm after storm. Um, in addition to the environmental, like the immediate area threat of that, there's also, if you're very sensitive to energy, you end up picking up on all of this sense of anxiety and fear and the stress and also the sense of loss that follows a devastating natural disaster. And it's not just floods and hurricanes, right? We got fires going on to the north of us, and there's like a lot happening. Okay. There's a lot going on. And there's always something too. It's like when you're not in the thick of it, you're like, oh no, this again. But like really, there's always something. I mean, I can remember like years ago, remember like the mad cow disease breakout. There was like a whole, there's like E. coli breakout. I mean, there's always like something going on. And for those of us who are sensitive, you might not even recognize what you're feeling is a result of that, because it might be nowhere near you geographically. You might not be aware of anyone that you know of personally who's affected or involved, but there is a collective energy that occurs around these things that can be very stressful. And so one of the ways, for me, it tends to show up as anger or sadness. So, and I figured this out years ago, but it took me a long time to figure it out. After there was a major disaster, natural disaster or unnatural, or man-made disaster in some part of the world, even though I don't watch the news, even though I'm not like, kind of like entrenched in current events and that kind of stuff, I would have like feelings that I couldn't point to where they originated. I remember like the huge tsunami several years ago. It was like I got really, really angry after that. And I was like angry and irritable. And like I couldn't figure out why. Nothing had happened. I wasn't due for my period. Like really, I'm like, where is this coming from? And I started to notice it was like on a global level, when there's a ton of people hurting or grieving or fighting or that kind of stuff, it would impact me. So, couple of tips to help keep your energy clean and clear and sort of protect you from that. The first tip is to ground. Did you know I was going to say that, right? Because it's the first and foremost in anything, right? You start and you get that root chakra, and I have videos on how to ground if you don't know. But that's the first thing I would recommend is ground. The second thing is drink a ton of water, okay? Because if you're sensitive to energy, you're probably healing without even knowing it. You're probably helping process through some of these emotions and feelings and turmoil that some people are dealing with in their face, front and center at that moment. And so you need to help your body stay healthy and maintain your energy and not create a healing crisis for yourself, as you may be a vessel through which healing is flowing, okay, without your conscious awareness, because many of us have that gift as well. Like I ground without trying to ground. So people feel calmer around me. They feel like, I feel like I can handle this, right? It's not because I'm saying I'm grounding you right now. It's just something I do all the time without thinking about it. So people in my presence pick up on that, even though they may not be able to name it or put their finger on it, they can feel a difference. So a lot of us have those sort of gifts that are just kind of always running in the background, whether we're aware of them or not. So if you're watching this now, you probably are, you have some background healing capacity that you didn't know that was active, or you didn't know it was working. So drink a ton of water, okay? Because this is going to help, you drink lots of water when you do energy work. Like your body can get dehydrated really quick, and you need to replenish what those cells need, right? The third thing is getting rest. And this can be really hard if you don't do 1 and 2. If you're not grounded, you're not drinking water, you may find you have trouble sleeping. I know a lot of sensitive people that when something major is up or when a big shift is coming, they get insomnia, they can't sleep, or they're up in the middle of the night, or they're up at the crack of dawn and can't go back to sleep, that kind of thing. So you really want to try and get as much rest as you can. And then whatever your favorite balancing technique is, I would highly recommend you do that as well. So maybe that is balancing your chakras. Maybe you do Reiki on yourself, or you trade Reiki with someone else, or you go to a Reiki practitioner. Maybe it's just meditation. Maybe it's being outside, which again also has a grounding effect. If you read my book, Get Grounded on Kindle, you already know that, right? Nature's hugely grounding. So, but whatever your favorite sort of balancing, maybe it's eating less processed food during that period of time when you're sort of noticing that you're not feeling like yourself, or you're not feeling super settled. Now, people ask me from time to time, people ask me about putting up layers of protection. I have a caveat around this, okay? Because when you put up a layer of protection, you're sort of insulating yourself from something. And I don't like doing that. If I do those, I will typically make them temporary, because if we just keep putting up all these layers of protection, what you're essentially doing is walling yourself in, and you're shrinking your energy. You're making yourself play inside a much smaller box. And really, the work that I do, the work that we do, is about expansion and growth, right? It's not about playing smaller and hiding. So I really don't like to put protective mechanisms in place. I would rather divert energy. And for example, there are some very specific people that when Hurricane Harvey was coming through, there was a very specific person that we set up some energy channels to channel the water away from their house. And they were like, oh my God, it's miraculous. The water came within this far. And we're like, yeah, we know. Right. So whereas had I put a layer of protection in, there's a whole different energy around that. And like I said, when you put in protection, it's usually done out of fear. And so when you do things that are fear-based, there's usually a backfire. Okay. So for example, if you're in a super toxic relationship, we really need to get you out of that relationship and away from that energy and into a much healthier, more supportive environment or relationships. As opposed to just putting up layers of protection, that's really shrinking you down. And the other person is just, especially when it's another person, they end up just like pushing harder and expanding their energy out further if they feel like they're not getting the results that they want, which then you have to put more layers of protection on you. And it becomes like this negative cycle. So if a storm's coming, or this is coming, or that's coming, it's one thing to set up protection, and I'm not saying I never do that, but I prefer that it's temporary. It's a much different and much higher purpose to actually see about resolving the situation or releasing attachment and fear and handling it from that level than, oh shit, this is coming. Let's put up a bunch of crystals, make a grid, make a little protection. That sort of boxes you in. Does that make sense? Okay, good. If not, I know you'll post a comment and ask a question, which is great. I love answering questions. All right, so there you go. There's how you can protect your energy and preserve your sanity and your awareness and your mind and your feelings and all of that when there's crazy stuff going on around you at a regional or state or city or local level. So I hope you found that helpful. Hey, why not share this video with people that you care about? And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.